Hola chicos, vamos a aprender a usar los números grandotes en español. We're going to learn to use big numbers in Spanish. Um, so you probably looked at the title of the lesson and went, okay, that's absurd. Why are we learning that? Well, because depending on the Spanish speaking country, um, sometimes their currency is in way larger numbers. Like maybe you want to buy a book and it costs, 10,000 pesos or 10,000 pesetas or whatever the currency is. So, if you're going to use money in Spanish speaking countries, you need to be familiar with really big numbers. Do you need a billion pesetas? Well, probably not. Or a billion pesos. But, what if you want to say a billion? Might as well teach it to you. So we're not going to use that all the time, but the hundreds are for sure something that you're going to need. And even the thousands, like when you want to say your birthday, or if you want to say in the year 2025, you can't just say en el año 2025. You don't get to just switch languages in the middle of your sentence. You have to say that in Spanish. Um, it's always funny to me how many people are like, what, those aren't words though, those are numbers. Well, sure, they are numbers, but there are words for numbers, so we have to learn those as well. So that's why we do this. That's a bit of an explanation as to why you need to learn such absurdly large numbers for pretty much basic Spanish. Um, but it's not going to be something that you use all the time. It really is an overgrown vocabulary lesson, but we have to talk about agreement, and there are a couple of rules that are unique to just numbers. So let's begin. Again, if you are good with this, if I do this whole lesson and you're feeling fine, then great. You don't need to attend the Zoom, but this is always a lesson that kids are, kind of angsty about at the end. They don't like it at all. And then after a couple of days, they're like, oh, this is not a problem. It's fine. So I think it's just a lot of words to try to explain it. And they're never happy at the start, but I will say it is in the very top of the high scoring sections on exams. So it's not just my impression. It actually is true that it's not as hard as it seems on the first day. So let's just dig in. This is a lot of repeating for you. So the video will be definitely beneficial to you because you can stop and start it as you need. Okay, 100. Let's talk about 100. So 100 is sort of weird. If you're going to say an even hundred, then you say the word cien. Cien. The only time you use this word is if it's 100. As soon as it's a little more than that, it's no longer cien, it becomes ciento. So if it's an even hundred, only if it's 100 is it cien. As soon as you roll over to 100, 101, it becomes ciento. Ciento uno, ciento dos, ciento tres, ciento sesenta, whatever it might be. So it's ciento if it's any more than an even hundred. Repiten, por favor, cien. Ciento uno, ciento dos. Seguimos, pues. So don't change 100 to agree in gender. That's sort of a silly question. Why would you change a number to agree? Well, some of the numbers you are going to change. So you're supposed to know 1 through 100, but I don't know if you actually do. But we'll practice them all anyway. So 105 boys. The 100, remember, this does not change to agree with boys. Other numbers are going to change. In a few minutes, we'll get to some others that absolutely have to change. 100 is not one of them. 105. 105 chicas. Same. You don't make cienta. Notice there's no and between 100 and 5. There's not an and there in English either. If you wanted to be very correct, you shouldn't be saying 101, 102. That's not correct. 101, 102, 103. There's no and. So it's the same rule in Spanish. So 105 boys, 105 chicos. Repiten, 105 chicos. 105 girls. Repiten, 105 chicas. Same number. Okay, seguimos. Ciento does not ever change to cienta, so don't do it or I'll take a point off if it's a test. All right. If you want to say hundreds, maybe somebody says, how many questions do you get from your students throughout the year? I could say hundreds, just in general, hundreds. Cientos. So that's a generalization of hundreds. Now, if you want to say 200 through 900, then they do agree in number and gender, depending on what they modify. But this is only going to happen if they're modifying something specific. If you're only saying the number 562, you don't have to make that agree at all. Maybe you're at the deli and the current number is 562. They would not try to make it agree with anything. They just would say 562, period. So if 200 through 900 are modifying something, you have to make the OS in the 100 agree. Repiten, por favor. 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. So these are the words that you're going to use if you're talking about something masculine. There are 500 books in the library that need to be reorganized. 500 libros. There are 500 chairs in the commons area, but we're not using them right now. Chair is feminine. Silla. 500 sillas que no estamos usando ahora. So if they are feminine, we put an AS at the end of them. Now, day one of the number lesson makes you want to scream because these are all new words to you. But if you look at them very carefully, 200, 300, 400, they're just squashed together, some of them. Some of them are a little different. 500, you don't say 500, that's not it. That's not the word. It's quin. But how do you say that if somebody has 5 babies, what do you call them? The quintuplets, right? Quin is 5. 500, 500, that's 500. 600, 600, no problem. 700, 700. This one's a little further out there, right? Gosh, what's the English word? Quintuple, sextuple, septuple? I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, I'm sure it follows the pattern in some way. I just am not putting my finger on the specific word. 800, you're back to just putting the two together. And 900 looks like 90 a little. So 900 and 700 are kind of weird. The other ones that aren't exactly just scrunching the two together, at least are familiar. The root word of those is comparable to another set of 5, or what else did I say? I don't remember now. I lost my train of thought. Okay. So you have to remember those. It's just memorization, but they're pretty easy to remember once you've worked with them quite a bit. Okay, so if you're going to say a certain number and 1, then you have to make that 1 agree. So say there are 51 girls in a class. then I would say, I guess I jumped the gun a little bit. Then the one has to agree with the girls, not the 50. You can't change 50 to agree. So 51. You got to put an A at the end of una. If there were 51 boys, then we would say 50 y. You're probably saying uno. No. Then it's 50 y un. Sorry about it. It drops the O. It's annoying. Everybody hates this rule, but it is what it is, and it is on your exam. So you're definitely going to need to know that. We'll practice it enough. Unfortunately, if we don't go back to school next week, then you are on your own to do the practicing. I'll provide you the stuff to practice with, um, but you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to follow through. Don't use Y all the time. I already said that to you once. Only use Y between the tens and the units, or the tens and the ones. I don't know what they say nowadays. So 589. You only are going to use a Y between 80 and 9. So this is the tens place. And when I was in school, this was the units place. So 589. 589. Never do 589. That's not it. Don't do it. You do not need an E here, only between tens and ones. And this is the most common mistake when students are working on numbers. This is the hardest thing to keep straight, only between the tens and the ones. Okay, so after we get through the hundreds, 1,000, you say 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and you don't make it plural as you go along. So many students say, well, hold on. If I say 2,000, it's more than 1,000. So why don't I make it plural? Because the Spanish rules say you don't. So just don't. Don't drive yourself crazy asking yourself why, because it's just something you got to memorize, okay? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 100,000, 400,000. No matter how many hundreds of thousands you have, you still don't make mil plural. So don't make it plural. Doesn't matter. You can make the word plural if you're generalizing, like when I said earlier. How many questions do you get from students throughout the year, Mrs. Callenber? Cientos. How many questions do you get from middle schoolers throughout the year? Miles. Thousands. They have a lot more questions. So only if you're going to generalize. How many people in the United States have been affected by COVID-19? Miles, thousands. So we're not saying a specific number, we're just saying it's a whole lot of thousands. Miles. Your next word to memorize is millón. Easy peasy. It's a cognate. Un millón. Repiten un millón. Repiten 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Miles. 1,000,000. 2,000,000. 3,000,000. So that's annoying. Don't change the thousands to be plural, no matter how many you have. But if it's a million, change it. Sorry, it's just the way it is. 2,000,000. 1,000,000. 2,000,000. 3,000,000. 4,000,000. You see why people are unhappy after this lesson. After millions, you have billion. Repiten billón. Billion. Billions, add an ES and drop the accent. Repiten billones. Trillón. Trillones. Are you going to use these much? Of course not. no more than you use billion and trillion now, but you should be aware of them. If you just want to say a ton, un montón. So that is not an actual number, just a way of saying a really lot. Un montón. Tengo un montón de tarea. I have a ton of homework. Okay, so that's all of it. Those are the rules. The number summary sheet that's attached to this lesson goes over all of it. So you can reference that sheet over and over and over, and all those rules are there. So I would print that if you have that capability. So let's try to put some of these together. So I clicked too fast and I got 156 over here. So 156. So you're going to say it's more than an even hundred. So you're going to say ciento 56. 56. 156. 600. 630. 35. 1000, 1000, 100, ciento 89, 89. So just take your time and string them together. The good news about numbers, and I don't get to tell you this very often, they translate exactly. So word for word, you can translate these. 800, 860, 60, 67. 867. Some more. Now, what if we're going to make these agree with other things? So these are just numbers, like you're counting, or somebody asks you a question and you only provide a number. So if I want to say 156 girls, what would I have to make agree? Anything? 100, do I make that agree? Never. Never 100. Do I make 56 agree? I do not. So this is going to be ciento. It's more than an even hundred. 156. Again, I don't know if you learned this last year or not, um, but we'll spend a little extra time if you let me know that you have not seen these tens before. So 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Those are what I'm talking about. So if you've never seen those before, then I'm going to need to know that. 600. Do I have to make this agree? Yes. 2 through 900, you have to make agree. So I keep looking over at you and you can't see the camera. So 600, you're going to say masculine. 600, 300, or 35, 30, 5, y cinco. You put an and in there at the end. 600 because of libros. 1000. We're talking about cars here. So we might have to make it agree depending on what you come upon here. 1000. Mil. 100. Not going to have to make a change because you don't make 100 agree with anything. Ciento. 89. 89. 1189 coches. 867 people, personas. So this ends with an AS. Are we going to have to change the 100? Yes, we will, because 200 through 900 change, but only the 100. So 800, 800, feminine style 800s. 867 profesoras. 800 profesoras. These tens and ones don't change. Okay, that's all the practice stuff. Now I have number drills that I can make videos for you as we move along. But I want you to just be able to go through the practice work for now. You'll use that. You'll use that summary sheet. All right, so you're going to translate these today. So you've got 7,839 chicas. So chicas will have to agree with the hundreds, maybe. It's 839, so it has to agree. It only doesn't agree with 100. So first of all, we're going to do 7,000. So we're going to say 7,000, comma. And no, I'm not really picky about commas when you're doing numbers. It's okay. 7,800. It's girls, so we're going to make it agree. 839. 39 chicas. It's annoying because this is a. Why are these in two columns right here? This is not a very user friendly document right here, is it? Let me change this rather than starting all over. Please just be in one column. There we go. That's better. 321 books. Okay, so the things that you sometimes have to change something and one, and hundreds, 200 through 900. It's masculine. Libros. So the base is OS. So we're going to say 320 and 1. 21. 21 whoa, whoa, whoa. Libros. 321 libros. Look at Microsoft Word's going crazy. All that stuff spelled wrong. It creates so many more problems, though, if I switch the language to Spanish. 490 pencils. This is the last one I'm going to do for you. So it's pencils. You got to know, are they feminine or are they masculine? Pencil is masculine. So you're going to say 490, 90 lápices. 490 lápices. So you're going to go on and do the last 17. You've got 20 here to translate, and then we'll go over them tomorrow. If this has blown your mind, then I'll see you at 7 p.m. Hasta luego, chicos.